Hi, everybody. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a minute. We'll see if a few more people jump on. Since it's just now 9 o'clock, but we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, for time's sake, let's go ahead and get started. It's just now 9:01, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So welcome. My name is Catherine Wilhoit. I am the Career Development Coordinator at Oklahoma Career Tech, and I mostly work with OK Career Guide. But today we're going to be focusing on financial aid. And what I will tell you is I am not an expert in FAFSA financial aid. I can tell you what I do know, and I've created a little presentation for us to go through together, and I will send that out to you all when we're done. But what I will say is, while I am not an expert, I can give you some tips and tricks and things that I have done with my own students in the past and hopefully answer questions. But if there is a question I can't answer, I will make sure to find out the answer for you and get back with you. But we're going to get started. And since it's financial aid and not always the funnest topic in the world, we are actually going to do a Kahoot. I would love it if you would join me. There are only a few of you on here, but that's okay. I would love for you to do this little activity with me. I think it'll make it a little bit more fun. If you do not know the answer as we go, that is totally okay. There are a lot of things that we didn't know. I did this game with one of my colleagues yesterday, and she and I both agreed we didn't know all of this. So feel free to play with us. It's okay if you don't know the answer. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start the Kahoot. So go ahead and get out your phone, tablet, whatever you would like to use. And if you will join me, you're going to go to kahoot.it, and you can do this in your Safari app, your whatever browser you want to use. But you're going to go to kahoot.it, and it'll ask for a game pin. And so I'll put this in the chat as well, but it is going to ask for a game pin. You guys probably know Kahoot. You've probably done it before with your own students. I'll give you just a moment. And keep in mind, I'm not going to keep any information here, so don't worry. You can put a fake name, you can put your school name, whatever you'd like. Perfect. I'll give you just a couple more minutes. And again, I know there's only a few of us playing, but that is okay. All right, I got. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So we're going to start. And depending on what you're playing on, it's going to ask you a question. So, and I'll read the question for you. When does the 2023-2024 FAFSA application open? Does it open February 1st, December 25th, October 1st, or January 1st? Yes, it does open October 1st. It's kind of a trick question because in the past it used to be in February, and that changed just a few years ago. And now it is October 1st. And so that is just a couple of days away. So that'll kind of help you mentally prepare for FAFSA opening soon. All right. What website do students visit to do their FAFSA application? So what website do they go to? Do they go to studentaid.gov postsecondaryaid.gov, FAFSA.com, or oklahoma.gov. Yes, that was also kind of a trick question. Studentaid.gov is the correct answer. But that can be kind of confusing because you may think they would go to a FAFSA site. So yes. Good deal. All right. So true or false, do high school students need to complete the 2023-2024 FAFSA if they're entering a post-secondary institution next fall? True or false? That is true to an extent. That was kind of a trick question now that I'm thinking about it here, sitting here thinking about it. They don't have to do a FAFSA. They don't have to do that to go to a tech center or to a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution. Technically, they don't. I always recommended my students to do the FAFSA, even if they knew they wouldn't get grants or work study, because in most cases for scholarships, you still need to have your FAFSA completed. Most scholarships want to see the FAFSA completed. So that's kind of a trick question. It is highly, highly encouraged and recommended for students to do it, even if they don't think they're going to get any type of grant money or work study. Okay, Amanda's on fire. Okay, we're going to keep going. So what constitutes as free money? I just kind of talked about it. Grants, subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, private loans, or a Parent Plus loan. Yes, grants, definitely free money. They don't have to pay that money back. Okay, true or false? A Parent Plus loan requires a credit check. True or false? It does require a credit check. That was something that we talked about yesterday. I talked to my colleague about that yesterday. It does. The parent has to do a credit check. We'll talk more about that in the actual presentation. Okay, true or false? A subsidized loan does not accrue interest while a student is in school at least half time or during deferment periods. Does a subsidized loan accrue interest? It does not accrue interest while the student is in school, at least part-time. It will not. We'll talk more about subsidized and unsubsidized loans too. All right. What type of aid is typically less flexible and has a higher interest rate? Pell Grant, private loan, unsubsidized, or Parent Plus? Yes, a private loan is typically less flexible and has a high interest rate. Any of us know that has had to take out any kind of loan. Interest rates, especially right now, are incredibly high. And so if possible, discourage students to take out a private loan. If you feel like a student's going to come to you and ask you that, it's not ideal. Okay, last question. True or false? Are scholarships a great source of free money? Yes, absolutely. Another thing they do not have to pay back. Okay, great job. I hope you guys liked that. I know I did. I think it's fun to do a game for a topic that's not always super fun. All right, Amanda killed it, but so did SHS and so did Cindy. So good job. All right, we'll get out of this. And I'm going to pull up the presentation. And I want you all to feel free. You are welcome to come off mute and ask questions. Please don't hesitate to do that. But you also can ask questions in the chat. And again, I want to remind you, definitely not an expert when it comes to financial aid, but I will try my best to answer any questions I can. And then if I don't know the answer, I'll get back to you. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about FAFSA. We're going to talk about financial aid and the types of aid that come along with that. We'll talk about EFC and offer letter basics a little bit. We won't spend a ton of time on that, but I do want to talk through the FAFSA application that's coming open in a few days. The 2023-2024 FAFSA application will be opening on October 1st. It does every year for the following school year. So for students that are typically current seniors and they are going to graduate in May of 2023, and they are going to a tech program or they're going to attend a college after high school, it is highly, highly, highly encouraged for them to do the 2023-2024 FAFSA. And it is really ideal for those students that you know, for example, maybe they get Oklahoma Promise, or you know that they will qualify for grants. The sooner they do it, as close to October 1st as possible, the more likely they are to get that free money. So please highly encourage your students to do it as soon as they can, as close as they can to October 1st. So now, a little caveat, I don't think this happens very often, but for high school students who are graduating this December and are entering a post-secondary institution in January, they need to do two different FAFSA applications. They need to do the 2022-2023 FAFSA application. That will qualify them for the spring, January through the summer of next year. And then the 2023-2024 application gives them their FAFSA for next fall and next spring. So feel free again to ask questions as we go, but I wanted to clarify that with you all. So what is financial aid? We all pretty much know it's from a variety of sources that help students pay for a tech program or to go to college. This can be through the federal government, so Pell subsidized and unsubsidized loans, work study. This can be through the state of Oklahoma, scholarships like private, tribal, local, corporate. And it can come in so many different forms. So grants, work study. For those of you who maybe don't know, work study is when a student is at their post-secondary institution and they can work on campus and they get paid through their federal aid. So it's really, really nice for somebody like me. I came from working in a higher ed institution. We loved hiring students who had work study because then their salary, that's not the right word, their check didn't come out of our budget, it came out of their financial aid budget. So work study is when a student can work on their post-secondary institution campus and get paid through the federal government. Student loans, and then of course scholarships. So we'll talk through all of those. So let's talk about, is there a catch? And let's break down the 3 different kinds of money that students can get. So again, ideally, free money is what your students want to go to. There are going to be students who will not get free money no matter what because their parents make too much, right? So for those that hopefully can, they would get Pell, FSEOG, Teach Grant if they are going to be teachers. That's even better. But these are first come, first serve. So for those of you that have students that could qualify for this, again, reminder, it's best to do their FAFSA application as close to October 1st as possible. We also have scholarships. That's another area of free money. Earned money, again, is work study. It is earned, but nobody has to pay it back. So the student doesn't have to pay it back, and the office that the student works for on campus, I say office, they could work for the parking office and do parking tickets. They could work for athletics if they are going to go to a campus that has sports teams on their campus, things like that. So it doesn't have to just be in an office. It could be anywhere that will hire them on campus. So the employer doesn't have to pay the student back for that money, and the student doesn't have to pay that money back, but it is earned because they're working for that money. They will not get it unless they have a job on that campus. And what I will add is there are some, like I'm in Stillwater right now, there are some local small businesses that will also hire work study students too. So there are situations where the student could work off campus and earn that work study money as well. So borrowed money, the third component, this would be student loans, a Parent Plus loan, and private loans. all borrowed money accrues interest, point blank, period. We'll talk through the student loans, but typically if the student can, it's ideal to get a subsidized loan. We'll talk through that more in just a moment. So those are the three components of the types of money that students can use for a post-secondary institution. So federal loans. For federal loans, repayment begins when a student leaves school or drops below half-time enrollment. And so in this case, the student would have to start paying those loans back. I worked with, I don't really like this term, but I worked at a college, worked at OSU, probably gathered that since I'm in Stillwater, and I worked with at-risk students. I don't really like that term, but a lot of my students that entered OSU entered with poor GPAs, poor ACT scores. Again, they were very capable, but for those students who did not succeed academically and were suspended, we had to have conversations with the students about the fact that they were going to have to start repaying their loans when they were suspended from school. And so that can be kind of scary for the student. And so you may not want to tell your high school students that, but you may tell them that if they leave school, that they are going to have to start paying those back, whether that's a tech center. If they don't complete a program, they're still going to have to pay those loans back. But again, we don't want to scare them. We want them to feel like they can get the funds they need to go to school. There are fixed interest rates with the student loans. So typically they're not as high as private loans are. There are no credit checks for student loans, but there is a credit check for the Parent Plus loan. So the parent has to fill out an application. It goes through a credit check to see if the parent is going to qualify to take out that loan on behalf of their student. There are some repayment options available for federal loans, deferment, forbearance, things like that. And some are eligible for federal forgiveness and cancellation programs in some cases. All right, so private loans. So we talked a little bit about this in the Kahoot, just briefly. This may require payment in school. It probably will. In most cases where I had students, I had very few students take out private loans, but for those that did, it was very stressful on them because they were paying a very high interest rate. And we all know interest rates are skyrocketing right now in the climate that we're in. And so it's even less ideal now for them to take out a private loan if they can avoid it. But they are probably going to have to pay it while they're in school, make payments on it while they're in school. The interest rates are variable. They may be super high. It may be fixed. It just depends on the bank that they go through to get the loan. But it's going to probably be higher than federal loans. Again, especially in the current climate. These probably will require a credit check. In most cases they do. And as we know, many students may not have a credit score. So in that case, they would need a cosigner. So that's where private loans can get a little iffy. They rarely have flexible repayment options, and they are not eligible for federal forgiveness or cancellation programs. So again, private loans less ideal unless the student is absolutely at a breaking point where they have to. All righty, so let's talk about the two different kinds of common federal loans. There's direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized. We'll talk about the difference. There's really only one big difference. This is a need-based loan for only undergrad students. And so the US Department of Education pays the interest while the student is enrolled in school. Yeah, so the student is not having to pay that interest while they're in school. Again, if they are suspended or they leave school at any point, a tech program, 2-year college, whatever, they do have to start paying that back even if they didn't earn a certificate or a degree, any of the above. They still have to pay that back. But while they're enrolled in school, as long as they are half-time or above, they do not have to pay the interest on this loan. So the borrower will pay, so borrower would be the student in this case, will pay for the interest and for that loan once they are no longer enrolled or enrolled under half-time. And so that is the main thing about subsidized. It is ideal to take out a subsidized loan if they can. We'll talk a little bit more about how students qualify, if they will qualify, but it is ideal if they can take out subsidized if possible, and if they need a loan. But there is the unsubsidized loan. So this is a non-need-based loan for both undergraduate and grad students. And so this would include students entering a tech program after high school graduation or adult learners. So this could be for undergrad or grad, tech center students, adult students. The borrower is responsible for all interest on this loan, period. They have to pay the interest on this loan, which is unlike the subsidized loan. If the student chooses, this is the caveat, the big caveat. If the student chooses to not pay the interest while in school, during the grace period or in deferment or forbearance, that interest will capitalize and be added to their loan. So it's really ideal for the student to start paying the interest on that loan while they're in school. So don't wait to pay that interest whenever you graduate, even if it's only a year or two program, it's ideal to start paying that as soon as possible. Any questions so far? Again, you're welcome to throw any in the chat. All right, well, we're moving right along. So here we go. Now, the other type of federal loan is the Parent Plus loan. We've talked a little bit about this already, but this is also a non-need-based loan. It is for parents to take out for dependent undergraduate students. What I learned, this is something I learned doing this, is that they can take it out for professional or grad students. The caveat is if you, and I included this in here just in case any of you are in grad schools or grad programs, or you know of anybody in grad programs, and you want to relay this information. Grad students are responsible for the interest while they're enrolled in school, even though the loan is technically under their parent. For those that are undergraduate, the parent pays the interest while the student is in school. So that would include if they need to take out a Parent Plus loan for a tech program or for a 2-year or 4-year institution. The parent pays the interest while the student is in school, unless you are a grad student. If you are a grad student or you know someone who's a grad student and wants to take out a Parent Plus loan, they are the ones that have to pay the interest while they're enrolled in school. This is the only federal loan that requires a credit check. We've talked a little bit about that already, but again, the parent will have to go through an application process, and the financial aid office at your student's school will help them get this started. So they're not alone in this, trying to figure this out, but the parent will do an application, submit that. Your financial aid office will help the student and the parent. And then from there, if they are approved, that loan will then go under the student, or that loan will then go under the parent's name for the student. All right, any questions so far? Okay, so let's talk about how to apply. So we talked a little bit about this in the Kahoot. Students will go, and they can just Google FAFSA, that's just the same, but students will go to studentaid.gov. They will select the Start Here if they have never done the FAFSA. In most cases, your seniors have never done the FAFSA before. If you have a returning student, they would need to log in and get their FSA ID. We'll talk through that in just a moment. Students can list up to 10 school codes on their form whenever they complete the form, or as they're completing their form. So 10 schools if they want to, up to. And so it also allows them to compare post-secondary costs. But for now, what I'm going to do is, I should have done this earlier, studentaid.gov. I'm going to log into my account, and I just want to show you, but I want to go to the main page. Give me just a moment. Okay, so here is the home page of studentaid.gov. And so this is where, hang on. Is that the website I want? No, I want this one. Let me go back one. Yes, I wanted to walk through this really quickly. So you're going to see, this is just the announcement page. So you'll see 2023, 2024 FAFSA form is almost here. So this entire website is going to be shut down late on Friday night so that the application can open by Saturday, October 1st. Did want you to know that. So the student can click start here or log in, or if they're at this main homepage, they can log in or create an account. Same thing, takes them to the same place. So if I click log in, it's going to take me to this same page. I'm going to log in because I already have a username. I have a FAFSA or FSA ID. But once it comes up here, it is going to ask, oh, it's not going to do it for me now that I've logged in. So typically we'll ask one of three things. It will say, and it'll have you select one of the three. And the first one is that you are a student doing the student application. So that is if a student is going to go through the application on their own and do it. And again, they're going to need their tax documents from their parent or guardian. So it'll ask, are you a student doing the application? Are you a parent helping a student do the application? Or are you a preparer helping a student do the application? So you could click, if you're going to help them do it, you can click either the student or the preparer. It'll be the same thing, but you are going to need the student's tax information. If a parent is helping them, they would select, I'm a parent helping my student do the application. So it will pop up and tell you that. I wonder if there's a way for me, I almost want to pull up the website here to show you exactly what that looks like. Give me just a moment. Let's see if it'll do it. Let me try one more thing. I promise it's not this complicated. Once you get into it. All right, here it is. It's going to ask, tell me about yourself. I'm a student and want to access the FAFSA form. I'm a parent filling out the FAFSA form for a student, or I'm a preparer helping a student fill out his or her FAFSA form. So that's what it's going to ask whenever a student is creating their account at the beginning. And so you are welcome to select whatever relates most to you and who you're helping. So again, you can, if you're sitting with a student and they're going to walk through it with you, they can select, I'm a student and want to access the FAFSA form. And that may be better because in the future, if they're in high school right now and they're going to continue their education, they may have to do it in the future on their own. They may. Some schools, like I know OSU had FAFSA nights that they help students do their FAFSA. But they may have to do it on their own in the future. And so it's not a bad idea to walk them through it as a student. Okay, so whenever I am in my account, I can click the FAFSA form here. And click go to the FAFSA form. And okay, then it took me back to this page. It really should not be this complicated, I promise. I'm going to say I'm a student, continue. I think it's the user that's making it complicated and not the website, just so you all know. So you'll see 2022, 2023. Again, this is going to be if you have a student who is starting post-secondary in the spring or next summer, they will need to do the 2022-2023 application. If they are starting next fall, they will do the 2023-2024. So let me read. I got a question in the chat. Okay, hold that thought, Julie. So what we're going to do is Yes, that's a great question. I just glanced at it really quickly. I'll be right back to you. Okay. So I can start over. I'm going to go ahead and click start over. I got in this yesterday just to see. So I'm going to click start over. And I'm just going to briefly just show you what this looks like. So the student will create a key. And I just did a 4-digit number that I know I'll remember and click continue. This is temporary for them to use. And they can go through this little FAQ section if they would like, or we can continue. So I'm going to continue. And it's automatically filtering my information because I did this years ago when I was a student, but it will ask for their social security number, first name, middle initial, date of birth, last name, email and contact information for the student. And ideally, you would have them put a personal email in here and not their school email, just to be safe. Because again, if I were using the school email that I had from years ago, it probably would be hard for me to get back into this. But I use my personal email. It just made it a little bit easier. And so you'll see up here all the different areas the student will go through. So school selection, remember, we talked about they can select up to 10 schools. Dependency status. So if they are, what's the word? Oh, there's the phrase I'm trying to think of. If they, there's a word I can't think of, a phrase I can't think of, but if they left the home under
emancipated.
Yes, emancipated. Thank you, Julie. I knew there was a word. If they are emancipated, then it will look a little different for them than it would for a student who's still living with a guardian. So they will go through this section, enter their address, and they will enter their home address. Have you lived in Oklahoma for the last 5 years? Yes, I have. And yes, I am a U.S. citizen. And continue, or they'll go through that however that works for them. And so then it's going to ask about education. High school completion status B when you begin college in 2022, 2023, or 2023, 2024 when that application opens. So I will have a high school diploma, GED, or homeschool. I'll just say high school diploma. What college degree or certificate will you be working on when you begin the 2023, 2020? So forth. Will I be doing a first or second bachelor's degree, associate, certificate, college graduate program, teaching credential program? And then they'll answer those questions as they go. So I'm just going to answer really quickly. Are you interested in being considered for work study? I would have a student select yes, no matter what. They don't have to use it if they don't want to. Female, continue. They'll enter their driver's license number. I don't know my driver's license number off the top of my head. And so you can see it's not a requirement, so they don't have that. That's okay. Continue. Foster care information. And then they will go through state Providence and continue through to the rest of these steps. So it's really not too complicated. What I will tell you, and I think what Julie would tell you, who's on the call right now as well, is if you can have the parent connect their tax information, upload it from online and connect it to their FAFSA form. It is secure and private and does not, Julie, did you want to jump in on that one?
No, I just wanted them to see me nod my head because as a parent, it saves you a lot of time if you connect it electronically, and the schools will send you less verification requests if you do it electronically.
Absolutely. So if the parent or guardian feels comfortable, ideally they should, hopefully they will. It would be nice to just connect their tax information that they did to the FAFSA, and it makes it so much easier. But if they have their tax information in front of them, they can type it up. And so any questions about this form? I'm not going to go through the rest of it, but you're welcome to look through it. If you have questions, I'm happy to walk you through it over the phone. And so I'm going to go back to the chat for a moment. Julie said, how do I identify student loan or student aid scams? They require you to pay upfront or monthly fees for help. They promise immediate or total loan forgiveness or cancellation. They ask you to sign and submit a third-party authorization form or power of attorney. So this is where it would be ideal if the student has the guidance. And so if you can, with any of your students, if you know, if you work at a tech center and students are coming to the tech center, then you already have wonderful people in your financial aid office who can help the student. definitely guide them to that financial aid person, counselor, whatever, and have them meet with them. If they are going to a community college or a four-year university, they need to connect with their financial aid office immediately as they can, and find a connection in that office or with their career counselor, their career advisor, their academic advisor, whatever that may be, when they get to that institution, because that person or those people at that school can help the student guide through what is and is not legit. I have on my PowerPoint a little bit about some scams, and so we'll talk through that in just a moment too. So we'll come back to that, and that's a great question. So going back to my presentation, so we talked a little bit about how to apply, how that works. I promise the website is so much easier to use than I made it look. It's just that I am going through the process of, I already have an account, but I'm trying to show you what it looks like to create a new account and so forth. So it's really not complicated once the student gets into it. So let's talk a little bit about after the student does the application. So after the student does their FAFSA, they will have what's called an expected family contribution, or an EFC. And so this is what the federal government recognizes that your family is capable of paying. So it's a certain number that financial aid uses to assign to students, and that is how much they can pay for cost of attendance based on their family's income. So it is not the amount that the student or the family is expected to pay. Again, it's a number used by financial aid to determine how much aid a student may be eligible to receive from their school. The EFC number will be the same. It's attached to the student. So no matter where they go school-wise, it stays the same at every school. But the cost of post-secondary and types of aid offered at schools can vary. So the amount of aid a student is offered could be different at each school. That's pretty common, because if a student goes to OU versus if a student goes to TCC or Langston or Northeastern State University, for example. I know NSU and Langston are two of the least expensive options in the state, and still wonderful schools. If a student chooses to go to any of those schools I mentioned, it's going to be higher at OU or TU or OSU, because the cost of attendance is higher than if they were to go to TCC, OCCC, OSU IT, OSU OKC. You get the point. But essentially, if they go to a school, Murray State is another one I think of. If they go to any of those schools or tech centers, it's going to be less expensive than if they go to OU, OSU, for example, or go out of state. But that EFC number stays with the student. It does not matter where they go. It just depends on how much they can get for aid. So they may get more aid, and it would maybe cover their tuition at TCC or NSU. It will not cover OSU's tuition. It will not cover OU's tuition. And so it's having those conversations with students to have them aware. I cannot tell you how many freshmen came to me at OSU and said, I didn't know it was going to be this expensive. I didn't expect this. And that's common. They don't know. They've never been to college. And so that may be another conversation to have with your students who are thinking of going to those larger state schools like OU or OSU instead of a smaller school, instead of a less expensive school, or instead of going to a tech center. Have those conversations with the student so that they're aware of the expectation they may have when it comes to cost of attendance at those schools. So you'll see down here, I did a little formula. So their EFC and their known scholarships or other aid is what is determined for their financial need. So any questions so far about that? Alrighty. So financial need, some types of aid are need-based and some are not. We talked a little bit about that. So Pell Grant, subsidized loan, those are need-based. Unsubsidized loan, Parent Plus loan, those are non-need-based. So those are some examples. By law, the amount of need-based aid a post-secondary institution offers a student cannot exceed the financial need. And that is determined from the formula we just looked at. So by law, the amount of need-based aid cannot exceed the financial need. Okay, does that make sense? Anybody have questions about that? And it's again based on this formula that the government uses from the student's FAFSA. And that is based on, again, parent income and so forth. Non-need-based aid, so unsubsidized loans, that's another one we talked about just a moment ago, may be offered to help meet the cost of attendance. So I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, ideally, it's great if a student can take out a subsidized loan if they can. But again, it is need-based, so not all students will have access to that subsidized loan. The unsubsidized loan is the one that interest starts accruing immediately for the student. So it is non-need based, same with Parent Plus loan. But that can help meet the total cost of attendance. So for some of my students who would come to me, they would tell me, okay, I owe this much on my bursar bill, but I've used this scholarship. I had Oklahoma Promise, but Oklahoma Promise can have its caveats too. I used my subsidized loan and I've taken out the max I can for this semester for my unsubsidized loan, but I still owe this much money. How am I going to pay that off? And so that's where the financial literacy piece comes in. And so maybe they can get an emergency scholarship or something along those lines. But again, if they go to one of those smaller schools that's less expensive, they may not have to deal with that as much. But it can get kind of complicated and nerve-wracking for the student. So feel free to ask me any questions later if you think of these, or if you have a student that you're working with in the next few months and doing FAFSA application, you're welcome to call me and I can talk through any of this with you. So all right, I don't see any more questions in the chat, so we'll keep going. So let's talk a little bit about scholarships. So billions of dollars in scholarships are awarded each year, which is not surprising. And it's not just for athletes. It's not just for students who have high GPAs or high ACT scores. They can be offered for a variety of reasons. Diversity. We've talked a little bit about tribal scholarships. I got a Cherokee Nation scholarship every semester that I was in school, including grad school. And so that helped me significantly because I did go to cheaper, I don't really like that word, but I did go to less expensive colleges, which allowed me to use scholarships and other money to pay for that and not be super stressed about money. But they can get that for diversity. If they are a Black student, if they are of a tribe, any of the above, if they are Latinx, Latina, or Latin background, they can apply for scholarships that are in regards to helping them with that. So if they are Choctaw, Cherokee, trying to think of, I know Chickasaw has some really good ones. So any of those can really provide lots of scholarship opportunity for them. Same with skills and interests. So they can apply for a skateboarding scholarship, or a painting scholarship if that's something that they're strong in. Leadership and community involvement is definitely one. They can do local scholarships. So their local grocery stores, banks, things like that. Those are definitely options. Same with disability or illness. They can use that as an opportunity to get some money in their pocket. So those are definitely options. We'll talk through how to access scholarships and where to. So where to look. So Nathan Brubaker and I, if you all know him, he and I worked on scholarships on our CTU page, which I linked here. I'm going to open the link for us. I would love for you to visit this if you are working with students who are trying to find scholarships. This will lead you directly to our scholarships by month. And so it is in alphabetical order, but you'll see we have scholarships for September, October, November, December, January, and so forth. And these are up to date. And so please take a look at those with your students and see if any of those could apply to the variety of students that you work with, because those could be really great opportunities. And so that is one place to access some scholarships. They can also Google brand name stores, restaurants. They can go to their library. I love when students go to their libraries because a lot of people don't go to libraries, and they should. There's going to be opportunity there for scholarships. And so that could be a great thing to push students there. Bookstores, counselors' offices, you guys know that you always have good scholarships or some scholarship opportunities that students may not be aware of. Trustworthy websites, and this kind of goes back to what Julie was saying. We'll talk about that. Website of post-secondary institution the student will be attending. So if they're going to go to a tech center or OSUIT, TCC, OSU OKC, OCCC, any of those, they all have scholarship options for students to apply to. So those are also great opportunities. So some trusted websites, I mentioned CTU and linked that. Yes, Amanda, so I linked it on this. Yes, it is. Here, Amanda, I'll walk you through it. If you are on our homepage, so you should see this on your homepage or something similar, and you scroll down, you're going to want to go to the kind of the 7th or 8th down, counseling and career development. And when you click on that, and if it tells you to log in, just go backwards and click it again, and it will load. You do not need to have a login to access this. And if you click OK Career Guide Curriculum, at the very bottom of that page, you will see scholarships by month. Here, and I will just copy that little link and throw it in the chat too, just so that you have it here. You are welcome. I sent that in the chat, but I will also send out this PowerPoint too so that you have it. Alrighty. So ctu.org, we just talked about that. You can go to .org. It's also a great place for students to go. College Start has scholarships listed. OCCF, Tulsa CF, FastWeb. I had a lot of students use FastWeb whenever I was working in a TRIO program. I had a lot of my high school students use FastWeb, and a lot of them did get scholarships through FastWeb. So it's going to offer and show students a variety of scholarships, national scholarships for the most part, not usually local, but usually national, but still some of my students really did get scholarships from FastWeb. So that's also a really great option. Now, I want to go back to Julie's question one more time. So how do you identify student loan scams or student aid scams? Basically, if the student loan says that it's free money, but the student is going to have to pay anything back and it's not a loan, like unsubsidized, subsidized, private loan, Parent Plus loan, it is not legit. It is not going to work for the student. And so that's where, again, once a student leaves high school, they are adults. They have the ability to make those decisions. But really, while you have high school students now, really encourage them as they go to look for aid each year that they're in a post-secondary tech center, college, whatever. Have them look for aid every year. But if they're not sure about the aid, if they feel like it's not legit or like it's a scam, to run it by their financial aid office and make sure, because there are financial aid counselors who will help the student. They really care about the student. And so that is ideal to have them go and speak to someone before trying to take out any kind of money. But if it says it's free money, but you're going to have to pay it back, or you need to pay an upfront fee to get access to that money, it is not real. So again, encourage your high school students to seek out people at their tech center or their college before making any decisions when it comes to money, because they can really guide the student. All right. Any questions at all? We're about 10 minutes out, so I'll give you your time back. But I did include, you'll see a QR code right here on the screen, and that's going to lead, actually I take that back. I think that's an old QR code, so it may not work. It may not take you to the website. Let me see. Yes, it won't take you to the website. It's an old QR code. I apologize. I just now caught that. But there is a website. I'll throw it in the chat where you can access our other webinar trainings that we have. So let me just throw that website. Instead of using the QR code, I'll have you use this link if you would like to sign up for additional trainings. We have quite a few coming up in the future. There we go. All righty. And then our contact info, I just squared off mine just in case you need to contact me. But again, I will be emailing you this information too. And so you will have my email. And Julie in the chat said, tell parents the first time is the hardest and longest, and the next time will be easier and quicker if they remember their username and password. Absolutely. It just gets easier and easier after they do it their first time. And after they do it the first time, the next time they do it, and again, if they can, it's ideal for them to do it about the same time every year around October or November. I told a lot of my college students, hey, do it when you are at home for fall break, or do it when you're at home with your parents for Thanksgiving. And then if you have any questions come up, you can contact us, because a lot of times at tech centers or at 2-year or 4-year institutions, a lot of us are not closed for Thanksgiving. Like the student may go home the entire week, but a lot of us are still working until Wednesday. So if they can get with their parent while they're at home and do it for the next school year, this is after they've graduated high school. So this would be as if they're doing it next year. They could call up their financial aid counselor and say, hey, I'm with my parent. Can you help me walk through this? So I'm not sure, but it does get so much easier after they do it their first time. So if you are working with high school students, it can feel a little bit messy at first, just creating the account, making sure you have the correct tax documents. But again, after that first time, it gets so much easier. So any questions so far? Anything else you guys want to run through that we didn't answer? This was just kind of an overview highlight of financial aid and of FAFSA, but you are welcome to contact any of us. As you can see, our contact info is here. If you have any questions that come up, we're happy to help you. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining. Again, I'll send you an email with this information in just a little bit, but you are welcome to contact us in the future at any time. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you.